And we're live. Kyle, welcome. Welcome to the chat. So today, before this call, we went to San Francisco's trendiest coffee shop, which is Q Specialty Coffee, where they whip up the espresso in the whip of the beverage. And I got like a chai with granola, and there's always a line around the door. It was crazy. Kyle can attest. He was there.
I was there. Does it help? Okay. Do you hear, does this auditorially change when I take this ear out?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay. So strange.
No,
So just my right AirPod is working. But
I
okay.
know.
If
AirPods.
anybody gets like a weird only one ear effect, I will throw this out the window. So if I sound okay to everybody else and I'm in true stereo, then I'll just operate this way.
Yeah, you sound great. So I think we're all
Okay.
good. So for today's office hours, we're going to be chatting about Substack Q&A, growth on Substack Q&A, leading up to, because today at 6 p.m. Pacific time is the cutoff for anyone who wants to join the 6-week Substack Sprint. If you have any questions about the sprint, you're welcome to join them below. You can join the sprint after this, but you won't be able to get the complimentary Substack one-on-one consultation with me. I've already done a few of them already with people in our workshop. It's honestly been awesome to get to know you guys and help you grow on Substack. And so for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with Kyle, he is my partner and co-founder on Make Writing Your Job. And he was actually just like 5 minutes ago helping to make some more adjustments to Make Writing Your Job Substack. He is the genius behind the analytics and the data and the drip campaigns and the subject line A/B testing. I think one thing that would be cool to start off this chat is, Kyle, if you want to share maybe the one most surprising thing that you learned about Substack this year, because you've been deep in our analytics, you've like helped grow our Substack, our collective Substacks to over $200,000 annual recurring revenue. I think it'd be really cool just to hear from you, like something really surprising that you learned about Substack growth this year.
Hmm. I think Honestly, I think all the drip campaign stuff that they just came out with is pretty incredible. I know, Amy, you've been doing the audits with people, and most people haven't even touched their welcome emails, which is like so fascinating. Your welcome emails are incredibly important, and there's a ton of stuff there where there's like, if people unsubscribe, you should have custom copy for that. And I think there's a lot of ways just to think about what did somebody sign up for paid, and what would they want from me, and how do I try to convince them to come back, remind them of value, maybe give a discount in that area. And I think the drip campaigns have honestly been my most uh, kind of like filling most of my brain of the new features of Substack. So I think like it's cool to just see how they keep adding different things. Or earlier this year, they allowed us to A/B test titles, which is like extraordinary. So I don't know how many people here also test their titles, but it's incredibly important. So
Yeah, I think
I feel like it's becoming more data driven.
just so I can jump in, if Jesse is on this call, we talked about A/B testing today and our Substack when I was doing a Substack audit with her, and I think that it unlocks so much. And even Kyle, you were really the push behind us A/B testing subject lines on Substack, and most people don't know about it. And it's such a good feature because there were some emails where you put in variations of subject lines, and we would double or triple open rates by A/B testing different subject lines and being like, wow, people actually open the email if there's a number in the front of the subject line or, different
Hmm.
things like that. And so I think the A/B testing feature, and if you go right before you schedule a post for the A/B testing, there's like a little button. I think it's something like
Run
test
test.
run tests, and it takes a subset of your subscribers and tests like however many subject lines you want to A/B test, and it
Right.
runs them through the different ones, and then the winner it publishes and changes the title for everybody, and that's a subject line that goes out wide. So I think that that's really cool, and we'll be talking a lot about welcome emails, about pages, and also just how to communicate your niche tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time for week 1 of our Substack Sprint, because that is something that Kyle and I were literally, like Kyle specifically was tweaking all of our like copy on all those pages before this call, and we're constantly returning to those. Kyle, you actually did something really fascinating with the drip campaign that I think is really interesting, which is you decided to use the discount code. We can create a unique discount code for every single email in the drip campaign. What have you learned about like tracking analytics and seeing what works when it comes to the things that we're testing on Substack?
Right. I think honestly, like, because with the drip campaign, you don't see the analytics of the posts that go out. You don't know if it's been opened. You don't know anything. And so the thing that you can do to set through any of your stuff is basically just see what clicks of call to action for subscribing or discount or free trials or whatever are doing the best. And you can learn a ton from those and then switch up those copy. So for instance, like a good way to kind of go about it analytics wise is if you're just starting, just try like anything. Just like be like, I think people care about I don't know, I'll just talk for make writing. Like people care about pitches the most. So we'll have like more things about pitches and then you'll have some things about freelance writing or maybe like you're kind of imagining what their pain point is. And I think when you put these special offers, the thing that it does is that it then shows like who uses that coupon code. So you get to basically see in real time, like what are like great conversion metrics for you. And so you can swap that copy in and out. It specifically works for drip campaigns because there isn't any analytics on that right now. I'm sure they'll have something at some point, but it's a way to basically kind of like track which of those new features or those new posts that are going out are working the best. And I think anything that's like doing great, like let it keep doing great, and then try to like reshuffle the ones that are getting like zero. And I think like sometimes you can wait a little while, like you can wait like probably like do it every month is maybe like recheck all this stuff. But that's the same for social. That's the same for anything. Is like if anything does really well, even like a post, the usual kind of metric of doing well that a lot of people will say is basically now make that one thing that you did really well, like 75% of your content and just different versions of that same thing, and then do 25% of new. And so you kind of just keep iterating until you find kind of like your maximum effect on your audience and what they're looking for. So I think that that was kind of like the way that we went about it, but it does create a lot of different special offers. And it also, these are things that the users are going to see, these paid subscribers. So you have to be kind of conscious of what you write in there. Like, so it can't just be like, random blah, 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 or random like conversion thing. Cause I feel like when people are clicking on subscriber stuff, they don't want to feel like that they're a part of like some like campaign mechanism, but they're getting something that is directly responding to the thing that they're trying to upgrade to or re-engage with. And so it kind of creates this like interesting little exercise of trying to be distinct enough to know which kind of like which email or what part of the campaign is getting sent out or what part of any of your world is getting sent out, and also knowing how to find it afterwards. So you can make little codes for yourself. I don't know, but we kind of just do it based off of title, so that somebody is like, oh, I was just on the grants and residencies. I just converted for grants and residencies. And so, yeah, using more of the special offers to kind of track what's doing well, especially for a lot of the drip stuff, is like super critical.
Yeah, and even with like the about page, like having a
Hmm.
special discount code unique just to your about page so that you can see how many paid subscribers convert either to a free trial or to a discount
Hmm.
from your about page. And as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about pages tonight. In a few hours. And for those of you who just joined us, Kyle and I are having a Substack Q&A chat. If you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat about Substack, about our 6-week sprint that's starting tonight. And I thought what might be helpful is one of the things that I'm seeing a lot, to go over some of the things that I'm seeing a lot, both in the audits that I'm doing with people who are in our 6-week workshop, but also with some of the clients that I work with on Substack. Like there's like 3 things that I consistently see that beginners on Substack, or even experts, honestly, not even just beginners, but people who've either been on Substack for a while and aren't seeing the results that they want, or people who are brand new to Substack, the 3 mistakes that I see so often, I think might be helpful. And then Kyle, you can chime in if there's anything that you want to elaborate on these
No, I'm
3.
curious. I think that
Um,
it's been super fascinating hearing about kind of just like the things that people are experiencing or things that you're noticing. And so I think it would be probably really helpful for a lot of people to kind of know kind of generally what you're seeing.
Yeah. So the first thing is that most people, like I would say 99% of people that I talk to who are either Substack experts, they read a lot of Substacks, maybe beginner Substackers, but they're really excited to dive in. I would say 99% of people have not customized their welcome email or don't know what it is. And I think that like I say this and I just like the my welcome email, I think especially in the beginning when I was starting off on Substack, it just escapes my memory. It's just like I have a welcome email. People are getting this every single time they sign up. And the thing with like the welcome email is that it is somebody's first impression of you and your Substack. They have no idea who you are. They have zero context. Some people are getting to your Substack and subscribing because another publication recommended you. So just because somebody has subscribed doesn't even mean that they have read your about page. They may have never landed on your Substack. And so I think a lot of people forget that the Substack network has a lot of ways to recommend you without people actually landing on your page. And so when you send them a welcome email and they've subscribed and then they're like, "Who is this person? What is this publication?" If you haven't touched it, it's going to be just a default, "Hello, you've subscribed. Welcome." And then people are gonna be like, "Who is this? What is this?" And so I think your welcome email is number one. And that's what we're gonna be talking about tonight. So I'm really excited about that because there's so many things you can do with a welcome email to add context and also kind of share with free subscribers why they should upgrade potentially. The second thing that I see a lot is that a lot of Substackers are trying to do too much or they're spreading themselves too thin, whether it's across multiple publications, multiple topics, and they'd be better served instead of just kind of having their energy like a lamp, just really diffused, really kind of narrowing it down to a laser and being like, I do this one thing or these three pillars underneath this one thing really well. And we'll talk about niches tonight as part of the 6-week sprint quite a bit because I think that if you don't have clarity over like how you're a laser and not just all over the place as a lamp, because there are great successful Substacks where people are just like, I write about this, I write about this, I write about this, but this is the unifying theme. And I think that that's the special thing with some of those, personal essayists or people you see on the bestseller list that seem to write about everything, but it's through a lens or a theme or a perspective that kind of cradles the topics for you. So it doesn't feel random. So I would say that that's the second thing that I see. The third thing is that post optimization doesn't happen and this is for everybody. And I think that this can be something as small as what we were talking about earlier on this call, which is A/B testing or not A/B testing your subject lines. This can be not knowing where to place the paywall, not figuring out how to hook a reader and keep them through, and really just understanding the reader experience coming into your posts. So those are some of the things that I've seen the most and that can make the biggest difference with having more paid subscribers and also serving your current readership better. But Kyle, what do you think about all of that?
No, I think it's super. It's just it's hard. Sometimes I feel like I suffer from this as well. Like, and I know it's something that Amy and I have both suffered from is that we focus so much on the product that we like forget about how it's being presented to people. And I think that, like, I remember when we were making podcasts, we were sort of like, we had just put so much energy even just to getting the episode out there to then even think about marketing was just like unimaginable. It's like, it was just like, it felt like you just went through this birthing process and then you were kind of like expected to do all this other stuff or birth another thing. And so it's so hard sometimes to think. And I think that's why kind of traditional stuff feels like really desirable to people is because so much energy and often the energy that people want to give is basically the energy like they just want to put it into their article or they want to put it into the thing that they really care about, the art part of it. But if you don't think about how this stuff is getting to people, it's never going to get there. And I think this year has been just like a gigantic experiment, I think, for Amy and myself. Like, Amy has the book coming out, and when, Make Writing Your Job was sort of like, kind of growing. And we were trying to think about like what is like different ways that we can get more people into it. We were like, oh, like the book is also like a really good sort of like thing to talk about Make Writing Your Job and sort of talk about like the resources that are in there. So it kind of became this like this combined sort of like thing where Amy wanted to write a book after Six Figure Freelance Writer, and then this Money and Power kind of came through, and I think it like it's interesting kind of just seeing, like, there it is, and it's behind her. She just got the hardcover today, and it's really cool. And I think it's like interesting to try to figure out like what are different ways that you can market to hit different audiences. Because we're like, what is NetGalley? NetGalley is a place where you can get ARC readers and you can get people into it. And so we're like, we've never really done a big NetGalley campaign. We had done it for some clients, but um, we had never done it fully for ourselves. And so we were kind of trying to figure out like how to find with this new element of make writing your job for the past year, like how do we keep finding different ways into it? Like, we did 3 months of like had a social media sort of manager and a person that was handling posts and doing different stuff for the account. And we learned a ton about Substack notes that we can probably go into at some point, about like how to convert from those and like what was effective and what wasn't. Um, but yeah, it's really hard, I think, as a creative first to try to think about how this stuff is going to get out to people because it feels like a different part of the brain or its own separate creative process that I think as creatives or people that are kind of more interior or writing for yourself or journaling or reading books, like you kind of like chances are that the outside world can overwhelm you a lot. And I think that marketing feels like that sort of the antithesis of the thing that you're making, because it's this opposite thing. But you're also wanting people to find things, otherwise you wouldn't be putting it out there. So that's just a giant ramble, but yeah, I think it's hard sometimes to kind of I personally uh, feel for people that are trying to figure out how to like manage their marketing efforts with their creation. And the thing that's kind of cool about Substack is that whatever you're creating is getting pushed out in some way. And it's a little different than like a tweet, or a Threads post, but it's nonetheless it's sort of like just trying to be consistent and trying to be really like analytics and data driven. Wow, Amy, the light behind you is like it's
You
like
got
it's like
the
angels are coming.
sunset.
Uh-huh.
Well,
So yeah.
Kyle, one of the questions that was dropped in the chat was from Margie asking about what is A/B testing. And I see Jesse just joined too. We were just talking about A/B testing earlier today. Kyle,
Mhm.
do you want to share a little bit about like what A/B testing is specifically for subject lines? And hi, Mackenzie, it's nice to see you too. I am glowing.
Yeah, she is glowing. um, why don't you go, Amy? I feel like I've talked people's ear off for a bit. What is A/B
Yeah.
testing?
Yeah. So we
Why is it
mentioned a
important?
little bit earlier on this call, but I think that like Substack has this free feature I think most everybody has access to. Sometimes I'm not sure when they roll out features to whom. So if you don't have access, like let me know because I'm curious at what level people have access to what. Um, but A/B testing subject lines, I think, is like really helpful. And we've talked about it earlier in this fall. So for those who missed it, you can watch the replay after. But I think that like being able to like understand like what makes somebody open an email, specifically what makes your audience open an email. And A/B testing subject lines is super cool because it's like we have no idea what makes people open a subject line or open an email from a subject line. And so you can test multiple subject lines for one post, and then Substack will automatically choose the winner and publish that. And you do that when you're about to publish a post. And so when you're A/B testing, it's the idea of like you have A or you have B, which one wins? But you can test multiple, not just two. And so I think that this is the thing. It takes 60 seconds to try like whip up a bunch of different titles. You can even throw it into ChatGPT. You can take the entirety of your post, throw it in ChatGPT, and be like, "Give me 5 more titles," and it'll give it for you, and you can test. Um, and so it takes 60 seconds, but it can double your open rates and it can lead to a bigger audience. And so these are the things that a lot of people don't do. And we're going to really go into depth into the 6-week Substack sprint about how to do this stuff. And I think Kyle and I have like been on Substack and been in the trenches of every single page, learning all of these hacks so that we can go, like, we had somebody in our community who I was like, "Hey, go change your primary category to business." And she sent me a screenshot like a few days or like a week later and was like, "Hey, I changed my screenshot and now my subscribers are just through the roof." And I'm like, "Amazing." And that was like a 10 seconds like settings tweak that she made, and it just completely changed everything. So a lot of us writers pick the hard way where we're just like, what is the most amount of work I can do? Like, I'm going to write the longest post. I'm going to pour my heart out. But we don't often do those 6 to 10 second tweaks in the settings panel or in the A/B testing that could actually get us out to hundreds of, if not thousands of other readers. And so That is why I'm running this 6 week sprint. And I want to just chat about it quick. And I know that we have some people on this call who are a part of it. And week one is tonight. And so I was thinking that I could just run through some of the weeks, and Kyle will also be a special guest for some of the content. But tonight is week one. And tonight we're talking about the foundation. And this is really important because what we're talking about on this call is like, what is like you can have A/B testing your subject line, but if you actually don't know who you're writing to or what you're writing about, then it doesn't matter how many subject lines you test. So I think that this foundation is really important of Substack. And that's why we're starting week one tonight at 6 o'clock, talking about who you're writing for in your audience. We're also going to be talking about the two different types of Substacks, the community model and the essay model. And these play by different rules, and there's a mixture of both on the leaderboards on the bestseller list. And I've worked with both in terms of working with clients as well as our own Substacks. And so we're going to kind of go into all the foundational stuff tonight. And you guys, again, you can still join us 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. And we're, again, offering a one-on-one complimentary Substack session with me, an audit to go through your Substack for the next 2 hours. So if you want to join, go to Pseudoscience and become a founding member, because this bonus is about to disappear. And if you want to join the sprint and get this bonus, then you'll need to do it before 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. And founding members of Pseudoscience will also get replays of all of this stuff too. So you'll be able to rewatch and kind of go through all of this stuff. Kyle, what else do you think is when it comes to the foundational elements of Substack, what do you feel like are some of the lessons we've learned when it comes to really fortifying the foundations?
Yeah, I think it's something that you talk about a lot. Like Amy took this class called Writing to be Read at USC, and she was like, it was worth the entire tuition. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of tuition. But it makes a lot of sense because I think sometimes different people write for different things, right? A lot of people write because they're just wanting, like, they're kind of wanting to project their internal mind upon the world, and they're like, please like this. And I felt like this in Hollywood a lot. Like I'd read people's scripts, and I'm like, oh, this story is about a writer in grad school who falls in love with her teacher. It's all of this stuff where it seems very clearly about their lived experience, and it's about kind of saying that my life is really, really interesting to you. And for some people, people are chaotic enough. Who is that woman, Caroline Calloway, right? Who is
Yeah, that's her.
There's some people that become kind of the walking meme of themselves, where they keep having to kind of do more crazy things in their life to become more interesting or keep people engaged. And I think that there's another version of it where I think then a lot of the way that we package our thoughts, we often don't think about who that person is. We kind of are throwing kind of just a fish hook out into the middle of the water, but we're not really aware of kind of what we're fishing for. We're sort of we're putting ourselves out there, and we just hope somebody comes and finds us. And I just was reading somewhere recently, I think it was on X, where it was saying the best way to start is just imagine one person that you're writing for. And because if you get one person that you know what they really like that you do in particular, whether it's talking about books that are coming out, or you're talking about the history of authors and their work, or whatever the thing is that you find that you engage with most with your friends, or a friend, that is a really good place to start, because then you're writing for an audience. And I think if you look at Substack and you look at the bestsellers, I think it's incredible the amount of resource that's on there. Is that you should just go to these bestsellers lists or whoever you're following and just look at their page. Be really snoopy. Almost it's how a lot of people, when they're about to go on a date with somebody, they just become almost FBI level detectives to basically research things. You should do that with everybody that you're experiencing. And because ultimately what's making them pop off, you get to see, and you get to see their conversion metrics. If you're a big fan of Feed Me, you can go see how Feed Me operates. If you're a big fan of Link in Bio, you can see how Link in Bio operates. You can go see how everybody lays their stuff out and how they convert, because everybody is doing a bunch of different tests and they're all talking to each other. So it's very important to kind of just do your research and know who you're going to be going towards. And I think when you're picking your category, that's also a really important thing. Like Amy's just like, just go to business if you can at all. But I think there's other places that also have incredible things. Like I think it's like food is a category. Like food is huge. Politics is huge. Finance is really big. So it's like you can kind of look and you can kind of see the money per category based off of like the amount of badges that are on them. And so like, like the orange filled in badge means you have 1,000 plus paid subscribers. And if you're purple, you have 10,000 plus. So I think like you can kind of go through and see what the different categories are. Maybe you could create something really, really unique in that category that's not really tapped into. Like comics doesn't have a lot of bestsellers. It doesn't mean it can't. It just it's not as like fertile territory and or as we can see right now. And so I think that like when you're going through this, I think researching like what you want to do, obviously don't stay in research for too long because like you should be making things. But like what Amy was saying, your category is super, super important. And I also think that reposting and repurposing your content specifically to what platform would be best for you is also super important. Make writing your job is really important to people that want to make writing their job. And so like what social platform is really where everybody wants to find jobs? LinkedIn. So LinkedIn became like just this insane thing for us. And I like we weren't doing anything with LinkedIn. And then I was like, I think like there's more here. And I just like optimized everything for LinkedIn also. And that contributes to 33% of all of our paid subscribers. And then it's like a combination of a lot of different things. Like, and you can have buffers set up so you can immediately have it go to Blue Sky or X or wherever. But really think about also where to repurpose your content to. Because if you're just a big, like, kind of like romantic-y girly, like Threads is definitely your audience. That's where they all are, is on Threads. So you want to go to Threads if you're talking about that. If you're talking about finance, you probably want to be on X. And so, like, really thinking about where is your audience living and who your audience is, and specifically who is one person that I enjoy engaging with and they really enjoy engaging with me. And I think that's a great place to start. So that's kind of, some advice that I guess I have. I don't remember what the original question is. I'm like trying to like follow
No,
my
I think that
logic,
stuff
but
is
I think
great. No,
that's
no,
what I
no.
think.
I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. And I think that and part of the reason why, like for the 6 week sprint that we've organized it the way that we have is that week one is all about the architecture. So before we start going into advanced strategies with A/B testing and things like that, tonight we're going to start with just the foundations of who are you writing for? What is your niche? And we also have some growth hacks and different things that you can do that take 60 seconds that can amplify you. But I think that like starting with like the fundamentals first is going to be really exciting and something that in a lot of the Substack audits I've been doing lately with people in our 6 week Substack sprint, like the things that we've been talking about that have been coming up is very foundational because I think what people don't realize is that both beginners and experts always like the most important thing that you need to do to become an expert is to just keep revisiting the basics. It's the same thing when I used to like play sports in high school. It was just like, if you want to be good at basketball, then you're going to just practice like 1,000 just like free throws or just normal, just like the basics, like just the normal stuff that you think is like really kind of like, you're like, oh, I want to do the flashy moves. But it really does come back to the fundamentals. And that's why we're spending the first class tonight for the Substack Sprint talking about that. The next thing that we're going to do after the holidays for the 6 week Substack Sprint is we're going to have a whole week around content engine. So when we're thinking about what we're posting on Substack, there's really important kind of like strategy that we need for just like how, and if you are scrolling through short form video and TikTok, the videos that catch your attention have good hooks. They have good structure. And Kyle and I both come from Hollywood. And so we're both TV writers. So we understand structure. And when like we're working on posts or when I'm working with the clients that are coming in trying to figure out how to package their material for Substack, we're always thinking about structure and trying to think about like how does a Substack post really capture attention? And it doesn't have to be rocket science, but it is really, really important. The next thing that we're going to do in the 6 week sprint is talk about the growth engine. So what Kyle was just talking about with finding the social media platform that your followers are on that your target audience is on and figuring out how to repurpose your content that you're making for Substack for these other platforms. And what Kyle has done a great job with Make Writing Your Job and a lot of the other kind of things in our world is that he has this theory called every part of the buffalo, using the content once and then repurposing it. So He does a great job being like, okay, we made this piece of content. We wrote this thing. How do we get it into as many forms as possible so that we're working smarter, not harder? So Kyle's done a really great job with that and using different tools like Buffer, he was talking about, that allows you to repost on social media without having to open up every app and create new posts. And so we'll also be talking about tools like that. Again, working smarter, not harder to get your Substack out there in week 3 of the Substack Sprint. And then week 4 is conversion and monetization. And so we're going to be talking more about what it takes to go from free subscribers to having an audience of paid subscribers, and really thinking about all of the different pieces, like what Kyle was talking about earlier in this call with the drip campaign. How do you track metrics? So where are subscribers coming? Where are they deciding to become a paid subscriber? And if you have an about page and you have that like coupon code that you've made for a special discount, and you suddenly see there's a ton of people landing on your about page and then deciding to become paid subscribers, that will tell you whatever you've written on your about page, do that more. And so you need metrics to be able to tell those different things. And then week 5 of the 6-week Substack Sprint is about community and retention. So learning how to build a community and give away value, and to just teach people things, and to, kind of take the core promise of your Substack and figure out how much can you give back to your audience. Kyle and I are constantly building different things. Like Kyle built an entire job hunting assistant tool for people on our Substack who were wanting to get through the job board more quickly. That is now linked on every single job board that goes out. So trying to think about how to have retention for your subscribers by building things that they're asking for and listening to them, especially in even the unsubscribe tab. And then week 6 of the Substack Sprint will be then taking everything from the class and turning it into the 12-month roadmap to a real Substack career. So some of you may have seen my recent post about if I was starting from scratch, what I would do to build in 12 months a 6-figure Substack business, and going completely from scratch and leaning into the things that are interesting and creative that I would want to write about. And so that was a post that was done really well on pseudoscience, because I think that when you're thinking about 12 months, it's a lot easier to plan out like your year and where you want to go. And so that's what we're headed to in a 6-week Substack Sprint. I know some of you who are here are joining it, and I'm so excited to get started. Again, we are starting at 6 p.m. tonight. So if you haven't already subscribed, go to Pseudoscience and upgrade to Founding to join. And again, the 60-minute one-on-one Substack audit is only going to be available for the next 2 hours until 6 p.m. Pacific time. So if you get that as part of joining the sprint when you upgrade to Founding. So that's the 6-week sprint. Kyle, what do you think that when people are kind of really trying to take their Substack seriously in 2026, what do you feel like is the biggest piece of advice that you give them?
I'm gonna ricochet this question back onto you.
Ooh.
Because I think a lot of I don't know how many people here have been, with Amy since the let me be your ghost Substack days, or even just from the desk of Amy Suto days, really OG Amy stuff. And she also documented almost a monthly record since 2023 of you trying to grow on Substack.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible resource because Amy is one of the most resilient people I've ever met. When she wants to focus on something, it's just nothing else matters. And it's when there's things that she might where she should be focusing on might be she focuses on the thing that she really wants to. And I remember in 2023, she was Substack's going to be the next biggest platform. And she was so confident in that. And I remember even along the way, I felt she was posting and spending time on this, and there was a lot of stuff going on in our business that I wish I had more of her attention on. And I was like, well, there's one place where we could shrink the attention. But it's fascinating, to think how resilient she is. So first off, I would go watch that series on YouTube, because it basically goes all the way up until she reaches her goal of 96,000 a year, and beyond that, she hits it. But we also this past week, we actually closed 3 job boards, or not job boards, 3 different Substack publications that Amy had been building at different points, or that Amy and I had been building at different points, or even one that people didn't even know about that we were thinking about building and we didn't. And so I'm curious, like from you, Amy, like if you were to think about what does it take to build a new Substack, like what is it like thinking back on the ones that we just closed? If you could like tell people a little bit about them and why you feel like they didn't fully work, and maybe how they can be like kind of like lessons for people that you're going to go over in the Substack Sprint. But like if you could tease a little bit of like what you feel like were really good lessons from those 3 publications we turned off in the last week.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that failure is something I definitely love sharing. And that's why on YouTube, I have this series of me just being like, hello, it's month 1 and there's a few people following me. Welcome. I'm going to grow the Substack. Come join me. And there's some months where I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I'm going to learn. And so I love kind of sharing and bringing people along. And then, but quickly to answer Declan's question in the comments here.
Yeah.
To answer your question, we're going to, this is kind of like Kyle and I just kind of sharing our journey on Substack, things we've learned on this chat. And then we're kicking off the 6-week Substack Sprint at 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. And so this replay will go out to everyone and you're welcome to watch it. But if you're wanting to join the class tonight, it's at 6 p.m. And then for the next few hours, this is like the last chance to get the one-on-one Substack audit, which I know I sound like a broken record now, but I want to make sure it's clear. If you want to get a 60-minute one-on-one call to go through your Substack and get attention from me, then that is included. If you upgrade to founding member, you'll get access to the 6-week class, all the replays, the founding member subscriber chat, support during the 6-week session, and then a 60-minute one-on-one audit, which expires in the next like hour and a half. So if you're wanting to join, go for it, because this is the last chance for that. You're welcome to join the 6-week sprint after that and catch up with the replays. But the one-on-one audit is coming up. So just want to make sure that that's clear. But to rewind to failures. So that's something that I think is something that I want to make sure is clear, that I made so many mistakes on Substack. And I think that when I started on the platform, I was just curious about like, what will people read? What are people wanting? Finding that like audience writer fit was hard. And at first I started with Let Me Be Your Ghost, which was it was originally a script I had written in Hollywood. And I decided to turn it into a novel. And I just boldly was like, I'm just going to start publishing chapters. And during the hardest freelance few months of our lives. And I think that like it was so challenging to deal with the level of like output that I was trying to hit for this fiction book, and then also just drowning under freelance work. And I think I was also working on 6-figure freelance writer then, or I was working on some book or multiple books for clients too, that I just kind of like, I drowned and I didn't ever like finish that fiction Substack. So if you're starting a fiction Substack, and I know there's some people in here who have great fiction Substacks, I think it's just like the consistency is the hardest part. And I found when I was publishing serialized fiction, I was just like, oh, I want to go back and edit that. But I was like, I have to like put out another chapter. But now I think I'm going in a different direction. So as somebody who likes to write messy and edit, I really found it was just such a struggle. And then it just felt defeating to put out fiction. And then I'm like, this isn't going the way that I wanted to. So fiction Substacks, I love. Serialized fiction, I can definitely still work. Some people do it really well. Serialized memoir, I've seen a few Substacks who do that, like who crush with that, because people are nosy and like to hear about people's lives. So I think that fiction is a bit of a challenge. And but people are figuring it out on the platform. The other Substack that we closed this week is Make Marketing Your Job. So Make Writing Your Job has been doing so well. And so we're like, oh, we've cracked like helping writers. Like, let's jump in to help marketers. And I think that when we jumped into the marketing world, I didn't fully recognize that it's very different than the writing world. And we hired a team of marketers to help us. but we are not marketers, not in the traditional sense of the world. So helping and building that community, we just realized that we didn't have the bandwidth to learn an entire new industry and niche, and we couldn't just expect our team to do it for us. And while we had growth and we got to bestseller status within a few weeks, which was awesome, and we were excited to help people in the marketing space, we just ended up needing more attention on make writing your job, on the other things we're really excited about, on like a secret project that we're working on right now. And so we're like, okay, these things need attention. We can't be spreading ourselves so thin. And that's why when I posted a recent article on pseudoscience, which was the 7 things I tell you about Substack if I wasn't worried about hurting your feelings. I hurt my own feelings because one of my piece of advice is like, don't have multiple Substacks. And like, that's what we've done. I think that you can have multiple Substacks. You just have to build one to like at least like a certain point before you then add the second. Because if you don't figure out the foundations of the first one, then the second one, I think will it'll just be then if both of them are struggling, it'll feel double hard. You'll feel really like you'll lose momentum. It'll be hard to stay specific. And so yeah, so that's kind of like the some of the things that I've made mistakes wise, but I honestly think that a lot of the mistakes that I've made on Substack over the years have to do with things that were preventable. That were totally like had I just actually figured out distribution on Substack when it comes to playing nice with the algorithm and actually distributing posts in ways that were, that my audience would like, that also would get to wider social media. Like TikTok has been actually a huge driver of traffic to my Substack in the last few weeks. So learning these other platforms and how they connect and how to do it without having there be all of a sudden hundreds of hours of marketing time. I don't have that time because we're like Kyle and I are working on so much together, and we have I have clients to also like work with too and have their books to read. So again, the emphasis on working smarter, not harder, and more efficient, and kind of trying to figure out like how can we actually grow these things and not feel like it's the hardest, most time consuming thing on the planet? Kyle, do you have anything to add for all of that?
Well, I know there's M asked if the classes
Oh,
will be
yeah.
available for replay later on.
Yeah. So,
Um,
what we're going to be doing basically with pseudoscience is we're going to be building up like a library of classes. And so, if you don't want to join the 6-week Substack Sprint tonight, then we'll be recording the classes and saving the replays, and that'll be part of the founding membership benefit. We're planning to actually teach a bunch of different cool workshops in the series for the new year in 2026. So yeah, you don't have to join tonight, and the only thing that is kind of like included as like a bonus for signing up now is the one-on-one Substack audit. But we'll have replays of the classes, and we'll have kind of like other different things that we're planning for workshop series and things like that.
Also, the audits with Amy are incredible, so I deeply recommend signing up for it. It's crazy. I don't know how she's doing it with all of her time, but she's making time for it, so it's pretty
That's why
remarkable.
I'm like I had to have it expired because I love it,
I was
and
like, "Are you
it's like
sure you want to do this?" I'm like, your schedule's a nightmare, and
yeah.
so
And then
kind of yeah.
Nice to meet you. I remember you from the Substack Live with Grace earlier today on how to go freelance. It was good to meet you. So I remember you from that. But yeah, Kyle, what else would you add? Kind of like about like I know we closed a few Substacks. We were gonna do make design your job, and we closed that also before officially starting that. Any things that you're thinking about, learnings that we've had on Substack this year, or things that we're thinking about for next year, or things that people who are listening right now should think about when it comes to their own Substacks?
I think there's always more to discover with the thing that you're doing. I think sometimes it's always like, I mean, like, I can only liken it to writing because that's the thing I know the most. But like, I knew that there were some people that were like, there's just one story and that's all I can do forever. And then they're like writing a novel that's like 400,000 words for like multiple years. And they're just like in their like mad cave. And like, there's some subsectors that are like that. And then there's other people that have like 4 or 5 not finished things. And I think sometimes like some people do well with having one thing that their brain can switch to. But I think that what you'll see, like if you watch the Amy Substack journey on YouTube, like what you'll start to see is like how she's trying all of these different things and like kind of like where you're at. Like if you have like only like I don't know, 10 paid subscribers right now, and one of them's your mom, like, like you can see the path that Amy also went on from there. And then like the minute she like figured out the job board and figured out how like we had unique jobs that we weren't getting, it kind of like became this like multiplier moment where it was like, oh, people just need help with their portfolios, need help with their jobs and trying to figure out how to get work. And that was something that, Amy and I had spent a lot of time thinking about over the years. And so it was kind of like just this thing where sometimes the world tells you what it wants from you. It's ultimately up to you to listen to it. And I think like, there's one person, I won't say their name, but there's a woman that we know who like has like a social platform, and she like has not grown at all, and she used to be a friend of us and a friend of ours, and it's like crazy to see her like at the same follower count, and she's posting the same thing as she did like 5 years ago. And it's kind of like it's hard because we even like when we were talking to her, we were like, hey, like maybe you could try this or do something like this. And she just could not, like, some people when like you say words and you just see them bounce off the person's head, like it was kind of like that. And so sometimes it's also tough because like you have to kind of be open. You have to be open to understanding like what the metrics are saying, what you're doing, and what the world kind of wants from you. And that's like what the ikigai thing is, right? It's like what you're good at, what you want to do, and what the world wants from you. And you need to find like that sweet center. And I think what I've seen with like a lot of the other publications, make design your job. We even tried make coding your job. And we had that for 2 weeks. But it was very clear very early on that like coders are a different type of a person and type of sort of their pain points are not can we find jobs. Their pain points are a lot of other things. They're over flooded with jobs, but they don't want certain jobs. And so it's interesting trying to figure out like what is the pain point you're selling, right? Because there's like what Amy will go into foundationally, that I think is way deeper in the class that she's about to teach, is like how do you pick what you're going to do? Because you have to think, how are people going to pay for what I am doing? That you're either going to be providing value for them that can create more value, which is like jobs. I get money. I pay you. You get jobs. Like very easy transaction there. The other thing is like, are you building something communally that they like to be a part of? That's like kind of like feed me. Is that like you're a part of like this cool club of people in New York that are talking about business stuff and book stuff and are going to like, parties in cemeteries. Like it's like a specific thing because like you're paying for kind of like information in a community there. And so it's like are you creating like a tool, a value, like a value piece of information, or are you creating something that is like fulfilling something in somebody's life that they're not getting? Like obviously the finance guys are all talking about like the stock picks that they really love. And so there's that. Marketing people, link in bio, are talking to marketers who that's their job about trends that they're seeing that helps them, make their jobs better. And so I think like it's interesting to sort of think about, when you're creating something, thinking about how what is actually something that somebody will pay for. And you'll see other things, and this is my theory. Like I'm curious what Amy will think of this, but what I started to realize with other people that were brought onto the platform, because for a while Substack paid people a certain amount to basically come onto the platform. And my theory is what they did is that they like paid them as like a subscription fee or as like an annualized thing. And what that does is it boosts them in the metrics and it puts them up incredibly high and it gives them a lot of exposure. So it makes somebody, I'm not going to say who I suspect that these are, but I think you can kind of imagine them. They're at the top of certain ones and they're very like entrenched, kind of like almost like Illuminati, like old trad publishing world kind of people. And I think that like when you're looking at that and saying like, how does that person have 10,000 followers or is 10,000 paying subscribers when they only like send out like a random Q&A every other week and then that's all they do? Is I think there's also different things where that one Substack could be paying for them potentially to boost them. The other aspect of it that I think that they genuinely do have followers, they genuinely do have fans. And I think like what they're wanting from them is like the lifestyle. They're engaging with them because they're subscribing to the life that they want. So if you're a person that has had traditional publishing and you're like a really big name, chances are people are going to follow you no matter what not necessarily, they could be fans of you, but they could be just following you because there's this relationship of them observing the things that they want. And you become this kind of like icon for them to basically assume the life that they want. Or they just are like, they like observing you. And so there's this other kind of side of things where I think there's people also on the platform that it seeming like are just amazing to me that they're succeeding so highly. And there's like theories that I've had about why that is. So I think when you're going through bestsellers also, and when you're building a publication, be like aware of who you're observing. And I would say probably like if you're wanting to grow on Substack and you don't have a base right now, I would say look at people that didn't have anything before Substack. And like
Yeah.
those will be kind of better people to examine because they'll help you kind of like understand how to cultivate your audience rather than importing something that maybe a publisher is actually handling for them and they're actually not doing it all. Like I'm almost 100% certain because we've ghostwritten for people, is that a lot of these big celebrities that are on here have ghostwriters that are ghostwriting their thing. So like also be aware of kind of like there's good lessons to observe. And then you're like, why is this person able to do this and I can't? It's because they have a ton of support. They have a ton of things underneath them. And they have this like other thing that people are obsessed with that is so far beyond kind of like what the quality is of the thing that they're creating. It's almost like what they are is the symbol of what people are paying for. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, what
And
do
I
you think,
think
Amy?
I know, I think that that makes sense. Like so Substack did this thing where they paid a bunch of creators who were on Instagram and Patreon to move to Substack, and they gave them like $100,000 or something crazy. I don't know the exact amount, but they took whatever you were making on Substack
Hmm.
and Instagram from whatever you were making content wise
You mean
under behind
Patreon,
it.
right? Like if
Yeah,
you were on
from
Patreon or whatever,
Patreon or
Beehive.
Instagram, because Instagram has like a paid tier, like, which is funny.
Hmm,
And so they took creators who had a paid tier on other platforms and then paid them a year's worth of salary for what they were making on these other platforms to move to Substack. So
right.
there are some creators on the leaderboards where you think that they're making a certain amount, but Substack might be paying them. So I think that is also like when you're looking at some of these Substacks, like you said, having a grain of salt, because some people you're like, wow, this person has gotten all the way up here, but they might have like 10 years of running a podcast or being a traditionally published author or working for a big publication and getting a lot of Illuminati support. And I think the thing that has helped me the most is actually consulting and working with a lot of smaller creators as consulting clients on Substack. And so it's been cool to see people grow and what it actually takes to grow. Because I think that when people look at some of these big, flashy people on Substack, they're like, oh, I just need to do like what they did. But it's actually and they're like, oh, well, they don't have a welcome email that's customized, or they don't have like these different things. I'm like, yeah, because they were on a famous podcast produced by a big company for 10 years. They had
Right.
a big email list that they brought with them. Or even there's like one creator, I won't name names, who makes educational content, who jumped on the platform and was like, I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars on Substack in 2 months. It's like, yes, but has almost like 1 million social media followers and did not fully disclose that in the writing of the post of what it took to get there. And I think that that's why it was really important to me when I was starting on Substack. I'm like, I want to document starting from zero, like zero, and why I started that YouTube series. And then why I also love right now, like getting in the weeds with people who are also at either zero or not where they want to be to get to them where they are. Because I think that that's the most exciting jump. If you don't have a following and you don't have celebrity traction, you don't have a big publishing deal to buoy you, what is actually the work that it takes to go from 0 to 1? And that's something that I've really enjoyed working on with clients. And so yeah, so it's like it is like really kind of like interesting to see like the two sides of things. And Lindsay, totally, I know that some of this stuff can give you the ick about this platform, and with any platform, like Substack's not perfect. Like there's going to be pros and cons about any platform that is like hosting, creators of different caliber or different types. And that's something that like Kyle and I like love to gossip about is like who's here because they built this brick by brick, and who's here because they maybe just kind of like were like fairy godmothered onto the platform. But I really do think that like one of the things I think is really special is like the sheer variety of publications that aren't celebrity run that are on Substack.
Hmm.
Especially there's a ton of poets here. There's a ton of astrologists here. There's a ton of, really cool creative writers here. There's like so many interesting types of people. And some of the clients will be able to talk about like kind of like broadly that I've met with before and help them with their Substack. But I just think that there's like so many cool stories of people who just like showed up on Substack and just like, here I am. I'm going to try this thing. And people were like, hell yeah, let's support you. And I think that that's the magic of Substack. And I think that it's not necessarily immediate or instant where you're on and like you do a few posts and you go viral and you're there. But I think that like even Feed Me, which Kyle and I talk a lot because I think it's just a very well run podcast. Emily Sundberg, who runs that Substack, not
Publication.
podcast, publication, started Feed Me as a series of horror anthology short stories. And I thought that was really interesting is that, Substack is a place where you can create a media empire that starts on the backbone of fiction. And I think that that's really cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree. If anybody has any
So,
questions, you can always like throw them in. I know like Amy and I are kind of freestyling. Is there anything else that you're thinking about, Amy, or is there something on your list? Did we get through all of what the 6 weeks of what the sprint is going to be about? Did you get to
yeah, so
the
we got
end?
through all of the 6 weeks, and I think that that's mostly the major stuff. So if anybody has any questions about the sprint that we're heading into tonight, any questions about kind of anything else about how to grow on Substack, anything about being a creator on this platform, I think that like I'm just really excited for tonight because I think that when it comes to the way that I like to teach growing on Substack is really starting a strong foundation because as you probably heard in this live with Kyle and I, we have started and thrown away quite a few Substack publications. Like this has been messy to figure it out and to like actually figure out like what is working for other people. Kyle actually went to a Substack event recently where he met a lot of people like in Substack in the Substack world. And so the two of us have been around quite a bit and actually hear what works and what doesn't from writers. And I think that starts with a really strong foundation. So Declan asks, how lucrative can writing on Substack be? It depends on a number of different factors. First is like, what is your total addressable market in your niche? So how many people is in your fan base? But I think the thing that I return to a lot is Kevin Kelly's essay on 1,000 True Fans. And so it's this concept, you guys might have read the essay a few years ago. And it's this concept that if you're an artist and you want to make a living as an artist, you only truly need 1,000 or 10,000 true fans. And he gives that number because he did a revised version of his essay. And he's saying if you're like an indie band or an artist and you have 1,000 people who can pay you or 10,000 people who can pay you like a certain amount every month, like $10 a month or something, then you can make a great living as a writer or an artist and earn 6 figures plus a year. If you're able to find 1,000 to 10,000 cool people who are interested in the stuff that you're making and who connect with you and resonate with your art. And I think that that's kind of the sweet spot of Substack is that you're not looking to please everybody. You're not looking to just like go and like siphon the energy from the world and find all of the people. You're only looking for 1,000 to 10,000 true fans. And there are millions of people on the platform. Last year alone, Substack processed $540 million of paid subscriptions that they sent to writers. And there is a lot of people who want to support you on this platform. You just have to find them and connect with them and find the best way to package your Substack so that they know what you're providing and what that you are writing for them. And so I think that it is lucrative, but I think that what I love the most about Substack and what Kyle and I have really benefited from is that Substack has a lot of growth tools and a lot of organic search to the point where we're kind of in like almost like the early days of YouTube and TikTok when there's just all this organic traffic and people who got into the platform early were able to grow really quickly. Like there's a lot of people who just joined Substack who you may know, Kamala Harris, Charlie XCX, Lizzo, like there's a bunch of people on the platform and like that's joining people like Margaret Atwood. So there's a lot of really great writers and Substack is kind of becoming this place for culture and for art and for writers who aren't famous to also grow a really beautiful community. But Kyle, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating with Substack because I think there's this kind of like war that's happening a little bit culturally inside of Substack. But the thing that I really care about with Substack is that its inherent premise is that it's the norm to pay for a writer's work. And I think for the longest time, I think a lot of like writers have been made to feel like that if you're a writer, you'll never be able to make a good living. And I think a lot of the other social platforms like, X, Twitter, Threads, or any of those things, like they give some money if you go viral, but it's for a very specific, very select group of people. And even, and there's like a lot of like weights on you of growing in those places to even be able to become, successful. And I think the thing with Substack is that you can actually be a person that is really passionate about this specific thing. And like you can find other people that will also be really passionate about that and really admire what you're doing. Like I was talking to a friend who's like really passionate about the dance scene and he had a specific idea about how he wanted to cultivate information in a community there. And he was wanting to make an app first. And what I'm telling to a lot of my friends who are wanting to make apps is like you should build your audience first, is because as somebody who's built tech products and we are building tech products, and I will say right now that like you can find the people that are trying to solve the problem like just by posting about it. And so if you can just put those words out there, you can kind of see like what the traction is and what the appetite is for people and what they'll pay for. And so I think I'm losing my train of thought a little bit, but I think I'm just looking at the time frame to build 1,000 true fans. I think
Yeah, to actually
I
jump
think
into
yeah,
that
you
real
take it,
quick.
Amy.
Yeah, I think that, and I know we're kind of like starting to get to time before we should wrap up, but I think like even I just want to pull up a calculator. I said 1,000 true fans, but it's like I think you kind of have to work a little bit backwards and think about if you were to quit your job tomorrow, what would you need in a year to survive? And I think that then you can kind of work backwards and think about, okay, how many paid subscribers would I need to then sustain myself? And so I say 1,000 true fans or 10,000 true fans, but even if you've got like 100 paid subscribers paying $8 a month and that's for yearly, that's, uh, oh man, I can't do math.
It's like
Um,
it's over 100. It's 100, right? Or it's like 8, so it's like 96,000.
Yeah, so it's like you only really need. I think that's why I put 96,000 in my Substack growth videos. It's like you really only need like 100 paid subscribers. Like you don't even need 1,000 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 true fans. Like you may only need to pass like 100 paid subscribers to quit your job and go full time on Substack. And that's why I think it's like such a cool platform. And when it comes to thinking about like, okay, how long does it take to get from 0 to 100 paying subscribers, writing about something that lights you up, like makes you feel alive? And that's something that like it really depends. And it depends on your niche. It depends on what are you posting each week? How quickly can you kind of figure out what your audience really wants? I created that guide on my Substack, Pseudoscience, about what I would do if I was starting over to go from 0 to $100,000 in annual recurring revenue in 12 months. I think 12 months feels very doable, especially correcting all of the mistakes that I've made up until this point. And especially because the platform's growing much more quickly and there's a lot more people who are more comfortable and familiar with it. And it feels like something people are more excited to support writers on the platform. And Substack's also launching sponsorships, which will be another income stream for writers. So even if you have a large audience and not a lot of it are paid subscribers, there's going to be some other ways to monetize too. So we're going to answer one last question and then we're going to wrap up. So the last question is, what are some things new writers do not do on Substack but should do? And so, so much. This is a hard question to answer because there's like I think I'll probably say a lot of new Substack writers and expert writers don't really master the fundamentals. And that's what I'm about to teach in an hour is the fundamentals for a 6-week sprint. And this is going to be the first hour. And I'm literally going to spend an hour with with everybody who's taking the 6-week Substack sprint, talking about the fundamentals and the finer details of those fundamentals, because the fundamentals is what is going to help you build a successful Substack, or it's going to be the thing that if you don't get it right, it's going to crumble, you're going to burn out, or your readers aren't going to actually connect with what you're writing and how you're writing to them. And so this is kind of like on Substack, it's not about like, it's less about showing up on a video or having a really flashy account. You have to write to your people and they have to like your communication style, how you're laying things out on a page. You can't have big walls of text. There's so many pieces that go into those fundamentals, and it's something a lot of people breeze past. And if you don't already have an audience, you can't afford to breeze past that if you're wanting to grow consistently. So I've learned that the hard way. We've learned that the hard way. So that would be my advice. But Kyle, do you want to close us out with any other things that you think new Substackers should know advice-wise before we wrap up?
I think the thing that I saw that Amy did that I think is like the hardest thing to do is just be consistent. And that's why, like, I think you can obviously figure out anything you want on your own, but I think that it kind of helps to have somebody like Amy, like, kind of creating this course, this sprint. And I've seen her just like working on the slides, and it's like a very deep, very like very thoughtful group. And I think like the people that are already in it are an extraordinary group of people that are growing and at different points in their journey. And I think it's just going to be something really, really, really special. And I think for writers, the thing that I would say is just consistency. And I know that's like the worst thing on the planet to say, because it's like I wish it was like there's a secret button that immediately gets you 1,000 paid. You just didn't find it. But seeing how Amy operated, I think the thing that she does that a lot of other people just can't do is like it is just consistency. She grinds it out, like, and I think that, you know, my thing is always like optimizing. I love seeing things. I love like tinkering with things. I love like reworking things or trying things. And I think that's why like Amy and I are like a good complement is like, you know, she's like the generator and I'm like the like curating optimizer. And I think for you or whoever, I think like whatever you're moving towards, like if you post regularly, some things will perform better than others. Keep doing that thing that's better, and then just like keep doing that and you'll end up somewhere. But you have to be open, you have to be listening, you have to be observing, because there's a big difference between what the world wants from you and what you want to give it. And I think sometimes the journey is to figuring out the overlap of those two. And so I think it's like really hard because I think a lot of people want to be overnight successes. That's why I think like traditional publishing is so like such a fantastical idea to so many people, is that they think that they could just send a manuscript in and then they'll just be like, oh, like it's like taken care of. And now I can be, you know, Sarah J. Maas. Finally, like I get to be that. And I just had to write my book. But the thing is that there's like a lot that goes into that that's really tough. And I think that like if you're building it from the ground up, like with Substack, and that's what like Write for Money and Power is about, and all this stuff, is it gives you the chance to actually have something that you own. The thing with like Billie Eilish or any of these guys, like they don't own any of their people. And even a lot of the Substacks that might be showing up from very famous people are ran by their teams. And so if they were to ever break up with them, they wouldn't have access to all of that information, to all of that data. They might only be contributors on their main account. And so what you see is like somebody that like has all of these things and it is really flashy and they can reach these high heights. It's with so many strings attached. Like you might be seeing them as like the star, but like what you're not seeing is like how they're a projection through like a magnifying glass that's been very like carefully crafted, that is allowing you to see them that far. But the trick isn't them, it's the magnifying glass. And like you can look at Cat's Eye. And I think that that's like the thing for when you're starting out, is it's like anything worth doing takes work, but sometimes the thing that is what a lot of people want to do, it takes extra work. And I think that that's something that a lot of people will hide from you. And a lot of people will say like, here's exactly how you make like, $1,000 a year. And like we can't promise that. We can only say what it took for us to get there. And I think that for somebody new starting out is that everybody's journey is going to look a little different. And then like there's things that we've learned that can apply to a lot of people. And with Amy's audits that are ending in an hour to sign up for, is very specifically looking at what your detail is, because it's like being able to see that different people require different things. And I think that that is so key. So like don't be afraid to like to pay for the things that will get you farther. Like is like $300 really worth potentially hundreds of hours of you grinding to find the same thing, or is it like what would be my time worth? If your time is worth more than $35 an hour, you're going to get way more value than the 10 hours that is going to be spending on this. It would take you hundreds of hours to figure out. So I think it's just like, I think for anybody, I think like just like be in there. Every journey like is their own journey and their own experience, but like you just gotta be like open. And like we didn't get to go to Substack Notes, but we learned a lot of interesting things on Substack Notes. Maybe that will be something we talk about in the next journey, but that's like its own like complicated interesting territory of converting people. But I think ultimately it's just like consistency. And if you don't like doing it, like you can also pivot to something else, but realize that each time you pivot, you're kind of starting like a little lower, not quite as low, because you'll still have like people that you'll hopefully be able to filter into the new thing. But like the consistency of being able to have people observing the thing that you're doing consistently for a really long time is like Amy is a freelance writer. She's the freelance ghostwriter. She's been saying that for like 10 years now. And so like if you Google it, she's like the first person that shows up. That's not because she decided to do it this year. It's because she decided to do it 10 years ago. And a lot of these things do take time, but it's about also kind of being honest with yourself, where you're at, what you're doing. And there's ways to get faster, farther with information, but it also just requires like commitment. And that's like the hardest thing is that. But that's my wind down. I know Amy needs to eat food before the class.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
just like
that's my
over
closing
caffeinated, so
statement.
I'm just like over here twitching.
Right.
But no, thank you, Kyle. You're very, very sweet. And honestly, like having your optimization skills like really have helped so much. And I've taken a lot from what I've learned from us working together and put it into a lot of the slides. And I'm so grateful you're also going to be a guest in the 6-week sprint because you have some good like jujitsu. And thanks, Leslie. I'm excited to see you in literally like an hour for class. So see you there.
45 minutes.
Or 45 minutes. And so and okay, so everybody else, if you haven't signed up for the sprint, it's starting in 45 minutes. Would love to have you there. It's going to be a great 6 weeks. It's this first session, and then the rest are happening after the holidays. So you have time to tinker on all the foundations before we really kick it into gear. As a 6-week Substack Sprint workshop member, you get access to the 6 live classes. We're going to have Q&A. It's going to be awesome. And you'll also have access to the replays. You have access to all the paid subscription benefits from Pseudoscience, all the articles. I've been making videos and walkthroughs of your settings page and things like that. I'm going to make a video this week about how to do a Substack live. So if you want to join, for the next 45 minutes, I'm including a special bonus, which is a one-on-one Substack audit with me that you've heard me talk about in this live a few times. And in that Substack audit, I usually do this for clients at $1,000 per session. But for this, it's included in the $350 founding member subscription for Pseudoscience. And as part of that subscription, you get everything with the 6-week course. You get the complimentary 60-minute audit with me, and I have to close it in 45 minutes because literally my calendar is too full. I really, really was ambitious with this because I want to hear from you and learn about your Substacks and learn about you. And they've been so much fun to do so far. So I'm honestly it's been cool. It's been really cool. And so if you want that, you'll need to upgrade in the next 45 minutes before class starts. You don't have to attend class live. There will be replays. And so it's $350 for the entire year-long subscription. And you get access to also the workshops that I'll be teaching in next year, as well as maybe some other perks of secret projects that we're working on, but TBD on that. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, you can feel free to message me on Substack. And Kyle, thank you for all of the wisdom that you shared with everybody on this call.
And thank you, Amy. None of us would be here without you. So thank you for doing what you're doing. It's amazing.
No.
And yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, Substack is such a cool place. It's so vibrant. It is the platform of the future. I will die on that hill. And I'm excited to get to know all of you guys who are joining class in an hour, and we'll see you there. So, all right, have a great night and see some of you soon.